But there's also an extra button located near the throttle so you can make this vehicle go into stealth mode. Watch. Uh-oh.
Goodbye.
Hello guys, it's Alan the Collector, and today we are taking a look at a precious vehicle greatly accepted into my collection in the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive gold label Lucius Fox and Tumbler box set. And for starters, we have some rather large DC Multiverse themed packaging. It's got a glossy rendering of the Tumbler with Lucius Fox front and center. At the top right hand corner, we get that McFarlane gold label sticker, the bane of many collectors, I'm sure. On the opposite side, we get the Dark Knight Trilogy logo, and below that, for those skeptical about the size, make no mistakes, it's a big boy, 18 inches long to be exact. On the back of the packaging, we get a better idea of what Fox and the Tumbler look like with these product shots, as well as an image showing that this thing is in fact a two-seater, just like the movie. The sides of the packaging just feature more names and logo, more product shots at the top, the bottom, legal mumbo jumbo, and some directions on how to open this mobile for our bat. But that's enough about the packaging. Mine got a bit of a dent during transit, so you know I'm not trying to keep it. So what do you say we bust open this box so we can get to our Tumbler and Fox? And now that we have Lucius Fox and the Tumbler out of packaging, I have to say, this is a pretty legit box set. It does everything it needs to, at least in my opinion. However, it could use a bit of refinement. I'm pretty satisfied with this purchase, and I'll explain why in a bit, but first, let's see if the accessories can sweeten the deal any. Yeah, we don't get a lot of stuff. Just a Lucius Fox and Tumbler trading card, a utility box, an extra pair of hands, what I think is either a cell phone or a remote control for the Tumbler, and then a display stand. Now before we take a look at the Tumbler, I do want to marvel at the figure it comes with. I mean, look at this face. You can definitely tell who it's supposed to be.
I'm God.
And actually, I think he's more of a fox in more ways than one. I mean, just check out the sculpting. McFarlane did a great job of capturing Morgan Freeman's likeness as Lucius Fox, even right down to the skin tags on his face. This is definitely one of the best head sculpts they've ever done in the DC Multiverse line. The rest of the figure isn't half bad either. From the neck down, we got a sky blue button-up shirt, and let's not forget that spiffy blue bow tie, a navy blazer, a brown belt with khaki slacks, all brought together with these brown loafers. He has a nice skin tone that I think really matches Morgan Freeman's complexion. And like all DC Multiverse figures, it has that standard articulation, so you're going to be able to get him to move in all the ways you could imagine. Ultimately, I think McFarlane just really nailed this figure. It's a shame that it's a gold label exclusive, because I can see many collectors clamoring for this guy. As for accessories, he doesn't come with a lot, but I do want to take a look at his hands real quick. As you can see, he has what looks to be some kind of a remote control or a cell phone. This could also possibly be referencing the scene in The Dark Knight when Lucius Fox is planting the dummy cell phone in China at Lau's company. It has very little detail, and it's just molded in black plastic and glued into this hand right here. This set also comes with another cell phone accessory, so if you don't want it permanently in his hands, you do have this free one that you can use for whatever purposes you'd like. It'll fit in his other hands easily enough. And check this out, now he has two phones. I got two phones! But if you want to give him a different set of hands, he does come with an extra pair, so all we'll need to do is just give these a little tug. So now you have some other options if you want to get him in some expressive poses. Now Lucius Fox does come with one extra accessory in the form of this box. What's in the box? Chill out, Detective Mills, I'll get to that. It has a few tech details on the side than on the top, and unfortunately when we get to the bottom, it is hollowed out. What's in the box? Okay, fine, we'll open it, see? It just comes with all of Batman's utilities. And unfortunately, they're not removable. No! It's all one molded piece, and the paint's not very good either. It is a little disappointing. Everything has this rose gold color, and it's a little messy. So it will make for a pretty decent diorama piece if that's what you're into. Some might say for the price, it probably should have done a little bit more, but I think it's okay for what it is. And the best part is you can get him to hold it if you want. You could pretend as though Lucius Fox is supplying Bruce Wayne with the tools he'll need to fight crime, and speaking of which, it's time we take a look at the biggest one, the tumblers. So Mr. Fox, why don't you say we go ahead and remote control that beast in?
So what do you think?
Very nice. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put you away, and now we're gonna take a look at our Tumbler. Now right off the bat, the first thing that we can say is that it has a lot of vehicular heft. This thing is a beast of a vehicle. Probably among the best that I have in my collection. I'm really loving the matte black of the plastic. The only glossy thing about this vehicle is on the windows. Everything else does a really great job of absorbing light. In fact, the only scuffing that there is the paint that they provided on the edges of the armor plating. We get this silver paint on essentially every angle, so you can tell that this vehicle is being beaten up as the Batman fights crime in it. When we get to the side, the silver paint is a bit more apparent. We also get a touch of rose gold paint on some of the other elements of this vehicle. I like all the different details that we're getting. I do wish though that these pistons found across various parts of the vehicle were painted silver so that they just stood out a bit more. I could really see customizers going crazy with this thing, bringing it to life with their own personal touches. We get a bit more rose gold paint here on the cannons near the front wheels, and then more rose gold paint on the plastic bits with these brake flaps. Speaking of which, when we get to the top of the vehicle, I do wish that these 6 brake flaps were a separate piece. It's all one piece kind of fastened onto the top of the vehicle, but it would have been nice if they could swivel up and down to simulate when this vehicle is braking due to the high speeds that it goes at. There are some additional brake flaps located right here as well that also are one static piece. It's just another detail that could have used a bit more refinement that I can't imagine would have raised the cost that much. We also get a better look at these windows here. Believe it or not, they are transparent. They just have a really nice tint on them so you can't see inside the vehicle, which is also a pretty nice touch. Moving the vehicle to the front, we get that same detail on these front windows, and then we also get some molded windshield wipers. A very interesting detail that you might not notice if you're watching the film. When we take a closer look at the tires, I like how they're molded in this dense rubber, so they have a nice soft feel to them, and they should roll pretty smoothly on any surface, whether it's smooth like my review space or some carpet perhaps. We can also see that there are headlights sculpted in, but they're non-functional. McFarlane did not put any working lights on this Tumbler. Again, subtle refinements that could have been made to really push this thing over the edge. I personally am not a fan of vehicles that come with lights, only because I don't find myself using them really, and I feel like it's an excuse for companies to drive up the cost. Fortunately though, this isn't the most complicated build in the world, so I can't imagine it'll be very hard for customizers to kit this thing out with the full array of lights. We have some pistons in the front molded in a rose gold colored plastic, and then we have some areas where I think these were some of the cannons on this Tumbler in the movie. Finally, when we go to the back of the vehicle, I really like these big wheels that we're getting here. They have a really deep tread with them, and just like the 2 tires in the front, these 4 in the back are also molded with the dense rubber. Now in the movie, this was essentially supposed to be a jet engine here at the back to help propel this vehicle going forward when it was making some of its leaping maneuvers. In reality, this was just a hot air balloon burner that could be used to produce the flames for the film. And it was powered by these propane tanks. There are 2 located behind the back wheels. They're not painted a different color at all, but I can see this being a customizer's dream, bringing this thing to life with all the subtle paint details. And then when we lift it up, we can also see the exhaust ports for the Tumbler. They have a silver paint around the opening just to give it that extra detail of weathering. And that pretty much does it for the outside specs of the Tumbler, so why do you say we take a look at the inside? All you have to do to open it is press this button here located on the front. Oh, and look who it is.
You must be Bruce.
Now in the movie, the Tumbler had a more elaborate opening, with all the armor plates shifting and accordioning into each other. Obviously, at this scale and this price point, McFarlane opted for a simpler spring-loaded action feature, but I think it still works. And as you can see, I have Batman steering this thing, and if you had any questions about how he can fit, this is the version of the figure with the plastic cape, so if this happens to be the only version that you guys own, don't worry, he will fit in with a little bit of patience. Putting him off to the side, the inside of this vehicle also lacks a lot of the screens and panels that the Batman would use to monitor his outdoor surroundings. Fortunately though, we do get a few stickers that have been applied to the front of the throttle as well as the steering mechanism just to help bring this vehicle to life. It would have been nice if this throttle was a separate piece. It's not going to look like the fanciest thing in the world, but when you do get characters like Lucius Fox in place, it does do a great job of hiding the lack of detail. Now, as I demonstrated earlier, this version of the Dark Knight with the plastic cape will fit into this Tumbler. You're just going to have to use a little more patience. Obviously, the version of this figure that came with the soft goods cape, like we saw in that 6-pack of Batman or the Platinum Edition Skydive variant, they'll have a better time fitting into this vehicle. Unfortunately, I just so happen to have that Platinum variant that we can take a look at real quickly. Yeah, this version with the soft goods cape is definitely a lot better. It also has a bendy wire in it, and the cape is a light enough material that it will actually hold its shape fairly well. And then the other added benefit is that unlike that other figure, he comes with 2 gripping hands. So that means he'll be able to grip the steering wheel with both hands. This tumbler really comes to life with 2 figures sitting inside of it, and it can close with no problem. So you don't have to worry about the head clearance once the figures are properly seated. And the best part is, not only is this vehicle outfitted with weapons like the front cannons, or that jet engine that I mentioned earlier, but there's also an extra button located near the throttle so you can make this vehicle go into stealth mode. Watch. Uh-oh.
Goodbye.
Well, there goes the tumbler, but at least we were able to salvage the bat pod from it. Getting these 2 figures out of the way, this thing has been collecting dust for a few months now, but now that I have the tumbler in hand, I think it's time I crack this thing open so we can compare the two and how accurate they are to each other. Now, the reason why I wanted to open this box set now is to compare it to the tumbler, but first, quickly going over it, it does appear to be pretty movie accurate. McFarlane did a great job of capturing that asymmetrical design of the bat pod. I like these giant rubber tires that we get from the tumbler. They spin well, and it's flanked by 2 machine turrets, which is also a nice touch. I also like how you will be able to get this Catwoman figure or any McFarlane DC Multiverse figure to straddle this thing, just like she did in the movie. A few details have been simplified, but perhaps my biggest gripe is with the wheels themselves. As we all know, the bat pod is formed from the front 2 wheels of the tumbler and kind of serves as an escape pod, so they should be the same size as what we're getting on this Lucius Fox and Tumbler box set, and unfortunately they aren't. What's interesting here is that the height of the wheels are approximately the same size on both vehicles, however the tumblers does appear to be a bit wider. The tread pattern is also slightly different. I think what we get on the bat pod is actually technically more movie accurate. It makes sense to give the tumbler a wider wheel, so I wish that in the design process of the bat pod, they actually made this wheel a bit fatter, and I think it would have also helped with the balancing issues that this vehicle has. It topples over pretty easily. And while we're talking about size, let's go ahead and move over to size comparisons. The tumbler is going to be much bigger than most other vehicles and figures you have in your collection. So here's how it compares to the drifter bike and the bat cycle from the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. It'll feel right at home next to the '89 Batmobile as well as the Batmobiles by McFarlane Toys. It's going to dwarf most smaller scale G.I. Joe classified vehicles, and it's going to take up a bit more real estate than a large scale NECA figure like Ed 209 or the Spider Gremlin. And for those of you who are curious, a tumbler is big enough to accommodate most 6 to 7 inch action figures from various lines, as you can see here. The only thing you'll have to be worried about is the head clearances for some of the larger figures that are above 7 inches. And finally, just for good measure, here's how Lucius Fox and the tumbler look under black light. No reaction. I guess the darkness really isn't their ally. So as for my final thoughts, the Lucius Fox and Tumbler box set is definitely a good purchase. Fox is a pretty basic figure, but he's one of McFarlane's best and he'll fit right in with the rest of your Dark Knight trilogy figures. The Tumbler is also rather impressive with its size and heft, but it does leave a bit to be desired. It doesn't have very much paint, the details on the interior are rather lacking, and while the absence of lights don't bother me, it might bug some. But the biggest problem is that it was a McFarlane Toy Store exclusive, and it's long since sold out, which is unfortunate because this was the version that most people wanted. And their store exclusives rarely come back in stock, so if you missed out, your best bet now is the aftermarket, and we all know what a headache that can be. But I do hope you're able to find this in your collection somehow if you don't already have it, because the size versus the price really can't be beat, especially compared to what similar price points get you from other companies. Oh, and also, now that we have a bat pod and a tumbler, McFarlane, we need the bat from the Dark Knight Rises film. I know it would be big and expensive, but it's the last major vehicle from the trilogy, so make it happen. But that'll do it for this review. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and share my video if you like what I'm doing. It does help out a lot. Be sure to stick around for a gallery at the end, and as always, collect responsibly.